truth, courage, sanity, just a few things your dad passed down. Return the favor this Father's Day with 40% off a new Daily Wire Plus annual membership, dailywire.com/gift with code DAD40. The great Trump-Musk feud of 2025, a political feud for the ages, replete with accusations of self-dealing and even pedophilia, may finally be over. Elon has apologized to the president. The two men have reportedly talked on the phone. Now many people are wondering if it was all just a show, all a farce from the beginning. And I actually have a lot of insider knowledge on this because I was in D.C. when this was happening. I will tell you what really went down. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. Simone Biles, a gymnast lady from the Olympics, has apologized over her pro-trans activism, which is an amazing story because it means we won. We haven't totally eradicated transgenderism from public life entirely, but we're winning real hard on this. Also, a great victory, something I have been working on and excited for months now. You might notice I'm looking a little bit more formal on the show today. If you're only listening, look it up. Pull it up on YouTube or Daily Wire Plus. We have the beautiful Mayflower handmade silk necktie. This Mayflower tie, I have been absolutely brutal about every detail here. These are woven in the hills above Lake Como, Italy, where silk, some of you might know, has been an art form for centuries. Each tie begins its journey there in the hands of master weavers who treat every thread like a brush stroke on a canvas. From there, it travels to a small atelier east in Europe, where artisans cut and sew every piece entirely by hand. No machines, no shortcuts, just craftsmanship of the highest order. What about the materials? It is made exclusively with natural materials, silk for the outer shell, cotton and silk for the inner lining. The result is a piece that drapes beautifully, knots beautifully. It's just marvelous, and it wears like an heirloom. Also, I was really meticulous about the design, so it's a nice burgundy tie, and a nice proper subtle burgundy with the Mayflower design on it, you know, the flower and then the triangle, with a little hint of blue for our new Mayflower dream, but it also means that you have a very subtle red, white, and blue with a touch of black, touch of gold. It's real nice. You know, gentlemen whisper. They don't usually shout. Craftsmanship really matters. If you want to get it, though, by the way, it's not on MayflowerCigars.com. You have to go to dailywire.com/shop. But it's real nice, folks. Got a little bit of that Anglo prep. It's got a lot of that Italian refinement. It's great. So get yours while supplies last. They're beautiful, and they wear just marvelously. I just absolutely love them. Okay, back to, well, I guess we're still talking about, you know, guys who know a little bit about style in their own quite diverse styles. Elon going a little bit more for that kind of, you know, gangster cash style. President Trump loves his Brioni suits. Well, the bro feud following the bromance might finally be over because Elon has apologized, sort of. Elon tweeted out, "I regret some of my posts about President Donald Trump last week. They went too far. You will recall there were accusations going back and forth, both sides. Elon attacked President Trump over the big, beautiful bill. President Trump kind of insinuated that Elon was self-dealing. Elon then kind of accused President Trump of being a pedophile or something. It was all insinuation. That wasn't a real hardcore accusation. And so they were fighting, man. And now they appear to be making up. It's being reported in, I think, the Wall Street Journal that President Trump and Musk have had a phone call and kind of worked it out a little bit. And so this is great. This is great on its face because, as I've said on the show for a long time, the liberal media have been trying to pit these two men against each other for the better part of a year now. Why? Because they have a very potent, powerful friendship. Elon provided, $200 million to the Trump campaign and brought over one of the big social media platforms to help the Trump campaign. President Trump has benefited from not just that, but also Elon's expertise in the government. And Elon has benefited, I think, from the bully pulpit of the presidency. And he obviously wanted to get his toe in politics, and he's been able to do a lot of great stuff in the federal government. So it's a powerful alliance that has been very, very painful for the left. And so they've been trying every which way to divide these men. And at a certain point, it did seem it all blew up. Now, I kind of expected it would blow up at some point. These are two boisterous billionaires who are both top dogs. And, Elon, very important role in the White House, but he wasn't the number one guy. And President Trump, he's been the number one guy for a long time. And so these two personalities were going to clash. Some people are saying that this was all a show. It was all just a farce. It was all fake for the internet. And, people fell for it, but they shouldn't have fallen for it. And I am here to tell you, because I do in fact have insider knowledge on this. It was a real feud. It was real. Coincidentally, I was in DC hanging out with some pals of mine who are close to the situation, highly placed sources, you might call them. It was real. This was real, and this was really being managed in and outside of the White House. It's real. And I know why people would think or be inclined to think it was fake, but I just know for a fact it wasn't. And this gets to a broader point about politics, which is when I was not really involved in politics, I was very skeptical of a lot of grand conspiracy claims. And then when I got a little bit involved in politics, I started to think everything was a grand conspiracy. And then when I got really involved in politics, when I really started to know the key top players, when I started to see events happening firsthand in real time, then I realized, again, that sometimes things just happen, that not everything is a grand conspiracy. And the Learn Latin Twitter account called this the Knowles effect. It's sort of, when you only know a little bit, you've got one point of view, and you're in the middle, you have a totally different point of view. When you know a lot, you kind of go back to the first point of view. That's what I can tell you about this. I remember even when I was doing the show with Senator Cruz, Verdict, for years. This was a while ago. I remember I was seeing stuff happening in the Senate in real time, and interacting with lots of senators and seeing things happen. And I'd read reports on the internet, say, oh, no, it's all for show. This is all fake. Here's what's really going on. I'd say, no, I actually know these people. I'm seeing it happen. I'm seeing their blood vessels, start pulsating in their necks. No, I knew for a fact, I said, at least, I don't even remember the issues exactly. This was all around the impeachment and COVID and whatever. But I remember thinking, no, I actually know for a fact that XYZ problem is not actually a grand conspiracy. And it's kind of funny that I was in DC hanging out with people very close to the situation on last week, Thursday and Friday, when this was going down. Because I can tell you for a fact, again, I guess you just have to kind of take my word for it, and Elon's word for it, and Trump's word for it. But this was real, man. And sometimes the simplest solution is really what happened. Sometimes two billionaire, boisterous guys who view themselves as great men of history, and might well be great men of history, sometimes they just kind of come to blows. And then sometimes, what happens when bros come to blows? Sometimes they make up. And I think that's what's happening here. You're seeing a rapprochement. The feud wasn't good for anybody. And it certainly wasn't good for Elon Musk. I think the surveys that came out afterwards showed that more people sided with Trump. But even more than picking a side, some people really wanted to divide them. All of a sudden, they started trashing Musk. I think that's insane. Musk is a great guy. Musk really has helped conservatives by buying X, by buying Twitter, then naming it X, by helping Trump in the election. Trump, obviously, we love Trump. And so really what people were rooting for, I think, is for this feud to just dissipate. It seems that that's what's happening. Is great. And sometimes stuff just happens, man. These are real people. I think when you view politics at a distance, you think they're all just glittering figures on a screen. But when you get up close, you realize they're real human beings. They're real people. And it's actually a consolation for conservatives because it means, look, we're in power right now. That's great. But even when the libs are in power and the libs are very well organized, they're not omnipotent. Okay. This is one issue with sort of grand conspiracy arcs. Is you tend to make a group of people, the libs, the Dems, whatever, the deep state, any group it is, you make them into demigods or something. You make them into omnipotent, infallible people. They're not. Sometimes things just happen, threatens to derail the train. Now, happy to see, no question, Trump train moving full steam ahead with the stuff we saw in LA, the massive deportation rates, coming to a city near you. We'll get to what that means in one moment. First, I want to tell you about Everyday Dose. I need you to go to everydaydose.com/Knowles. If you feel like you keep juggling expensive supplements that are just getting less and less affordable, then Everyday Dose will be a lifesaver for you. Everyday Dose transforms your morning coffee into a powerhouse of vitamins, minerals, and amino acids, all in one affordable cup. Just 30 seconds to prepare, and you're getting your caffeine fix plus all the nutrients your body needs. One delicious cup, one simple solution. Everyday dose is not just coffee, it's coffee plus benefits. They've infused their 100% Arabica beans with lion's mane, chaga, collagen protein, and brain-boosting nootropics for clean, sustained energy without the crash or jitters. You can choose between their mild Coffee Plus, which is light, smooth, and gentle on your sensitive stomachs, or you can go for Coffee Plus Bold, which is rich, full-bodied, medium roast with an extra energy kick. Both deliver the same functional benefits and undergo rigorous third-party testing to ensure you are getting the best quality. Your brain and body will thank you. Everyone's looking for ways to get a little bit more energy. I think this is terrific. Get 45% off your first subscription order of 30 servings of Coffee Plus or Bold Plus. Go for the Bold Plus is my recommendation. You will also receive a starter kit with over $100 in free gifts, including a rechargeable frother and gunmetal serving spoon by going to everydaydose.com/Knowles or entering Knowles at checkout. You will also get free gifts throughout the year. everydaydose.com/Knowles for 45% off your first order. The Trump train goes chugging along as the LA deportation riots simmer down now because Trump came in. They thought they were going to get away with it. They thought they were going to have a summer of love, George Floyd 2.0, get to burn down whatever they wanted. And then Trump said, yeah, we're not going to have that. We're going to send in Tom Homan. We're going to deport a bunch of it. And then when you make a ruckus and you start setting stuff on fire and you start throwing Molotov cocktails at cops and you start getting out of hand with your Mexican flags and your Palestinian kefias and your all cops are bad signs and your anarchism and all the rest, when you start doing that, we're going to arrest you too. And we're going to shut down this city. We're not going to deal with it. You want to talk about a lesson learned from the first administration to the second administration. Trump is using a heavier hand here, and it's a political winner. That's what people want. And now it's coming to a city near you. According to news reports, the military-style units that we saw in Los Angeles, they're coming to New York. They're coming to Chicago. They're coming to Seattle. They're coming to Philly. They're coming to Northern Virginia, around the D.C. area. This is according to MSNBC. They're going to cities that are full of illegal aliens and run by Democrats. This is great stuff. ICE tactical units to all these cities, and who knows? Maybe the National Guard if the libs get a little uppity, and maybe the Marines too. Great stuff. I love to hear this. And my question is, why not? You know, you had the protests, the cry of hope, the songs of joy as the left-wing terrorists were throwing Molotov cocktails. You had the protests in LA, and then Trump shut them down. And that was not only the right thing to do, that was a political winner for Trump. So now you got protests in 35 cities. I say, as a Republican, as a conservative, as a Trump supporter, bring it on. Great. Good. Have your protests in 300 cities. I don't care what you do. There is a political mandate to do this. Mass deportations won the popular vote. Trump didn't hide the ball. He didn't hide the ball on Elon. Elon was on stage with him. He didn't hide the ball on what he's doing. And he won the popular vote. So it's the right thing to do to send in ICE. It's the lawful thing to do. That's what federal law says to do. States have no right to contradict federal law. There is a political mandate to do it. And even after the fact, it's a proven political winner. So I think the Dems are terrified over this. They're putting on a strong face. Gavin Newsom, he's, I'm the chief Democrat fighting Trump. Yeah, okay, I guess you are. So Gavin Newsom is now getting more presidential play in his party than Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Gretchen Whitmer, all those people. Sure, okay, good for him. But it totally derailed his strategy. Because his strategy, he realized the Democrats had gone too far and they were politically toxic and they were going to lose the popular vote again if they kept it up. So what did Newsom do? He tried to move to the middle. And he tried to be friends with Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon. That was what he was playing. He realized MAGA is the mainstream movement. So he was trying to get part of MAGA in the same way that Trump took part of the Democrats. And he was trying to do that. And then Trump forced his hand. He said, okay, well, we're going to send in ICE because that's what the people elected us to do. And what are you going to do? You're going to stand with the law and with the people and with our borders and our Constitution? Or are you going to stand with the Mexican flag-waving lunatics tossing Molotov cocktails? And Newsom made his pick. Newsom said, I stand with, why are you making me do this? I guess I stand with the Mexican flag, Palestinian keffiyeh having violent rioters. Okay, great. Okay, now you're the leader of your party, which is unelectable. Good. You get to be the number one loser. Great. So now this is going to spread. It's already in 35 cities in the protests, but the ICE raids are going to spread at least to these 5 major Democrat cities, and it's going to force the hands of the governors of Illinois and Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, and New York, Kathy Hochul. And it's going to force the libs all around D.C., and it's going to force their hands. So if the Democrats were smart, here's what they would do. If the Democrat protesters, rioters, politicians, tomato, tomato, if they were smart, when ICE shows up and they have their protests, they would wave the American flag instead of the Mexican flag. Because at the very least, then, they could make the claim that they're the ones defending patriotism and civil liberties and the Constitution and America, and they're on this. They would wrap themselves in the flag if they were smart. And I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, Michael, shut up. Shut up. Don't give them good advice on how to play this when it comes to them. Why would you give them? I'll tell you why I'm not afraid to give them this good advice. Because they can't do it. They cannot do it. Gavin Newsom just proved that. Gavin Newsom knew that the politically smart thing to do if he wants to win the general election is to defend the Marines and law enforcement and the American flag and the Constitution and the law. And he can't do it because his base won't let him do it. Because the Democrats hate the country. As they've said, sometimes in academic ways, we say, well, actually, our country was founded on whiteness and the original sin of slavery, and it's imperialistic. Sometimes they gussy it up that way. And sometimes they just say, like, F America and F Trump, and they burn the American flag in the street like they're doing in LA. But it's the same thing. The professors and the politicians and the lunatics in the streets, they're all saying effectively the same thing. We hate America. So they can't wave the American flag. They're allergic to the American flag. They'll wave the pride flag. They'll wave the terrorist pride flag, the one with the triangles. They'll wave the Mexican flag. They'll wave the Palestinian flag. They'll wave all the flags except the American flag. So I'm giving you great advice. I don't care. Here it is, Democrats. If you want this to play well for you, wave the American flag. I dare you. You can do it. So the show rolls on. The Trump train rolls on. It's going to be beautiful. Now, there's another report out, also from the Wall Street Journal, how Home Depot became ground zero in Trump's deportation push. This is great. This is great, great news. Not because I don't like the guy. You know how Home Depot works. It's all the illegal aliens are looking for day work, hanging out outside Home Depot. So you go there, you pick up your tools, you pick up your lumber, you pick up whatever you're going to get, and then you pick up a bunch of people from Latin America who don't have papers, illegal aliens, to come over and do the work on your house for cheap because you can pay them slave wages rather than hiring an American to do the job. That's why they go there, because they get a lot of work there. And I actually have sympathy for those guys because they're obviously hardworking guys. They're out there trying to work. They're not like welfare receiving, couch potatoes or something. I have sympathy for them, but they're not supposed to be here. And if they want to come here, they need to get in line, but we should actually drastically reduce all immigration, including legal immigration. And sorry, we have a right to be a sovereign country, and we have a right to our culture and to our language and to our demographics and to electoral security. And we have a right to those things. And I'm sorry that the Democrats told you to come over here. I'm sorry that Joe Biden rolled out the red carpet and Kamala Harris wouldn't close the border. And I'm sorry that you got hoodwinked. But you did something bad too. You broke our laws. You knew you were breaking our laws. You worked with hideous, evil cartels to do it. And so, sorry, you got to go. This is a great sign because it means that Trump is serious about the deportations. If Trump were not serious about the deportations, as I've pointed out, a conservative estimate, we have 11 to 16 million illegal aliens in the country. If Trump were only going and arresting MS-13 and Tren de Aragua and even the people around them, we would, by the end of this term, deport, at best, 200 to 400,000 people. That's a generous estimate. That's nothing. That's a fraction of an iota of a fraction of a drop in the bucket. But Trump didn't get elected just to deport Tren de Aragua. He got elected on a campaign promising mass deportations. That's what the people want. Of all sorts of races, all sorts of backgrounds. Trump won 46% of the Hispanic vote on that line. And if you want to get mass deportations of illegal aliens, go to Home Depot. And the libs are going to cry their crocodile tears because they're going to lose their slave labor and they're going to have to pay more to mow their lawn. Okay. Yeah, that's a pity. It's a pity that you gave us this situation. But this means that Trump is serious. It means that the second Trump administration is a little different from the first Trump administration. And I prefer the the second Trump administration. I really like the first one, but I prefer the second one. Kim Kardashian is attacking Trump. Speaking of flashbacks from the first Trump administration, she's hitting Trump over the deportations. She writes, here, do I have it? Where's Kim? No, I don't have it. I'll try to read it on the screen, even though it's in silly colors. When we're told that ICE exists to keep our country safe and remove violent criminals, great. Hold on, pause. I'm gonna put your pause right there. I don't know why you were told that. That's not why ICE exists. ICE does not exist to keep our country safe and remove violent criminals. ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. ICE exists to enforce immigration law, not just to remove the violent criminals, not just to keep you safe. You got cops to keep you safe. You got the military to keep you safe. Specifically what ICE does is enforce immigration law. It's a little sleight of hand that the libs always try to push. Well, you're just supposed to deport the violent ones. No, you're supposed to deport all of them. They're not supposed to be here. But when we witness innocent, hardworking, they're not innocent, they committed crimes, hardworking people being ripped from their families. They don't need to be ripped from their families. The whole family should go. In inhumane ways. It's not inhumane. It's very legal, orderly ways. We have to speak up. We have to do what's right. Growing up in LA, I saw how deeply immigrants are woven into the fabric of the city. Yeah, immigrants are woven into the fabric of America, for better and worse, to greater and lesser degrees over history. That's true. Illegal aliens and legal immigrants are totally different groups. And these are our neighbors, our friends, our classmates, our coworkers, our slaves. She doesn't say that, but that's what she means. They're our slaves. We hire them to give us cheap labor. And you're taking my cheap labor away. Yeah, sorry, lady. You got to pay a little bit more. No matter where you fall politically, it's clear our communities thrive because of the contributions of immigrants. No. Immigrants can help, and immigrants can also tax our resources and commit crimes and rape and murder people. It is far from clear that our cities thrive because of immigrants. Some immigrants are great, some are terrible. Some are here legally, some are here illegally. The illegal ones got to go. We can't turn a blind eye. There has to be a better way. Kim Kardashian was maybe the worst part of the first Trump administration. She was awful. And she got smuggled in because Trump was buddies with Kanye West and they were married at that point. Not Trump and Kim Kardashian, but Kanye and Kim Kardashian. And so she had this big role in the White House. And her role, it was awful. She's a huge lib. And her big contribution was pushing the Jailbreak Act, where we let criminals out of prison for some reason. Trump gets elected to put more criminals in prison. And then this lady weasels her way into the White House. And then her big achievement is to let criminals out of prison. It was terrible. This woman is awful, and she should be kept as far away from the White House as possible. What she's saying here about ICE is just not true. Her views are wrong. And I am quite hopeful that she has very little sway in the White House these days. Because, as I just mentioned, there is a difference between the first Trump admin and the second Trump admin. And the first Trump admin was good. I really liked it. I'm real gung-ho about it. The second Trump admin is better. It's a better oiled machine. It's working better even when fights break out. When little feuds break out, they're resolved quickly. People are working together. It's staffed very well. The people are very serious all the way up to the top. The president is a little more battle-hardened because he's been in this a long time. The vice president is superb. The cabinet is excellent. It is all the way down to the staff level. The staff is just better overall than it was in the first term. This is good stuff. I like Trump 1.0. I would love Trump 2.0. Now, we're getting wins not only on hard, knit-and-gritty politics, government action. We're getting major cultural wins, too, as we saw in the case of the gymnast Simone Biles. First, I want to tell you about how to improve your sartorial culture with Hammermade. You need to go to hammermade.com/Knowles. You know, I'm a guy, I'm not a dandy, I'm not a fop, but I'm a guy who takes my appearance appropriately seriously. And that is why I love my new Hammermade shirts. These are really, really nice. I like them so much. I actually have an emergency stash of them in my office here in case I am ever bereft of good shirts. Hammermade shirts are designed for men who want to make an impression and present themselves in the best way wherever you may be. You will find unique styles that stand out from the crowd thanks to their small batch production approach. And once that design sells out, it is gone. They partner with the same high-end manufacturers that luxury name brands use, but they skip the inflated designer prices and focus on precise tailoring with cuts and finishes that deliver the perfect fit. I like them. Some really stand out, and some stand out in that beautiful way, that subtle way where you think, oh, that's a nice little touch. Do not miss out on Hammermade's latest designs before they're gone. Hammermade.com/Knowles. Use promo code Knowles at checkout. For a limited time only, Hammermade is giving our listeners, le crème de la crème, $50 off your first purchase of $199 or more. Order now at hammermade.com/Knowles. Use promo code Knowles. Hammermade.com/Knowles Promo code KNOWLES. Speaking of liberal celebrity ladies, Simone Biles. I talked about her on the show. She's a gymnast lady. She's an Olympian. She's won many medals, I am told. I don't watch the Olympics, but I'm told that. And she's a huge lib. And she attacked my friend Riley Gaines in a nasty, catty way. Because Riley Gaines, as opposed to hulking dudes participating in women's sports for obvious reasons, for matters of justice, for matters of safety, all the rest. And Simone Biles attacked Riley and called her ugly, which is insane. Riley Gaines is a very good-looking woman. And Simone Biles, this is how I know Simone Biles is at least not a man. Simone Biles attacked her in this very catty, girly way. She said, if you competed against people who are your size, you'd compete against a man. A little cat fight breaks out. And she was doing this because she's all gung-ho on the trans stuff. 5 years ago, Simone Biles would have won, Riley Gaines would have lost. Simone Biles would be given even more endorsement deals because of standing up for transgenderism. And what happened now? She apologized. She writes this. I wanted to follow up from my last tweets. Last tweets were, you're ugly, Riley Gaines, and I hate you, and we need dudes in women's sports. Me. And then this is a little more measured. Whatever PR firm wrote this, you were actually probably a little too measured because it reads so inauthentic. I wanted to follow up from my last tweets. I've always believed competitive equity and inclusivity are both essential in sport. The current system does not adequately balance these important principles, which often leads to frustration and heated exchanges. It didn't help for me to get personal with Riley, which I apologize for. Yeah, that's right. You do apologize. That's right. And why are you apologizing? These are sensitive, complicated. Oh, they're complicated issues? I thought you said it was a simple issue, that fellas should participate in women's sports, and if you don't go along with that, you're a terrible bigot and ugly. No, these are sensitive, complicated issues now that I truly don't have the answers or solutions to. Yeah, you don't. But I believe it starts with empathy and respect. Yeah, good. Yeah, I like this more respectful tone. I was not advocating for policies that compromise fairness in women's sports. Yes, you were. Yes, you were. You were advocating for dudes to participate in women's sports and beat them because men are physically stronger than women. You were, and now you're lying. And you're relieving yourself on my leg and you're telling me it's raining, but at least you're apologizing. My objection is to be singling out children for public scrutiny, blah, blah, blah. Here's why I didn't really say what I said. XOXO, Simone Hart. Yeah, we won. And some people are saying, well, it's not a sincere apology. I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. You're right. It doesn't read like she wrote it. But who cares? When you tell your little kid, I have 2 toddlers, all boys, 2 toddlers, 1 baby boy. And my 2 toddlers, when they get into a little fight, and you say you're sorry. Sometimes they will. I have sweet little boys. Sometimes they will sincerely say they're sorry. Sometimes they don't want to say they're sorry. You say you're sorry right now. And you got a little stick and you got a little carrot, and you make sure that they say, and they say, I'm sorry. Did they say, I'm sorry because they're sincere about it? No. They said, I'm sorry because you made them do it. And the fact that you can make them do it means you have authority. You're the sovereign. We are the sovereign now. Look at me. We are the cultural hegemons now. That's what that means. The incentives, financial, political, all the rest, cultural, are pressuring Simone Biles to disavow the transgender ideology and to grovel to Riley Gaines and to all of us and to the electorate and to Trump. Fine by me. We won. We've not fully eradicated transgenderism from public life entirely yet, but as I pointed out, ideas have momentum, and they go down a long way following their own inner logic. And then when you pull on that thread and you expose a weakness, they start going back in the other direction, and they don't just stop when the libs want them to stop. They keep going. Good stuff. Speaking of uneducated people, the president of the National Education Association was just filmed shrieking, it's on C-SPAN cameras, shrieking at an anti-deportation rally.
We the people! We the people! We the people! Yes! All of us have that right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice!
Woo! This is a Howard Dean scream of teacher unions. Got to give a hat tip to Corey DeAngelis for finding this clip. These are the people in charge of education in America. And I know some people are considering homeschooling their kids or sending them to a charter school or a co-op or something. And I know, because I feel it myself, the objection is, well, am I capable of it? I don't know the first thing about teaching. Am I capable of teaching my children? A little encouragement is, these are the people educating your kids. These are the people running the mob that works with all the teachers that teach your kids. And that woman does not sound like she graduated from the 8th grade. That woman is not educated. She's not in control of her emotions. She doesn't know anything. She's advocating policies that are contrary to law and reason and the good, the true, and the beautiful. Whatever you do with your kids' education, don't send them to her. Why is a teacher union president at an anti-deportation rally? Unless, I don't know, maybe some of the teachers are or something. I don't know, but why? Those two should not have much to do with each other. And if they have anything to do with each other, the teachers should be teaching people to follow the law and justice and reason. Those are the people in charge of education. So when homeschooling rises, when charter schools rise, when the co-ops and all this sort of stuff rise, when people look for alternatives, they're doing so for very, very good reason. I'm not saying everyone's fit to homeschool. They're not. I'm not saying everyone can afford a private school. They can't. I'm not saying that everyone's right for a co-op or this or that or the other thing. But avoid that. At the first rule of medicine, do no harm. First, do no harm. Those people are going to harm your kids. They're going to harm their intellects. They're going to harm their souls. It's not just the teachers' unions. Other union leaders are backing the... Here is Liz Schuler, head of the AFL-CIO.
In the labor movement, we were built on this word, and that word is solidarity. Solidarity.
The word is solidarity. She says that these migrants are our neighbors, our coworkers. These are people who are looking for a better life and are contributing to our economy. It's the head of the AFL-CIO. David Huerta, who's the head of SEIU, United Service Workers West. I've had to deal with SEIU in campaigns before because they always bust people in for Democrats. It says hardworking people and members of our family and our community are being treated like criminals. They are criminals. We all collectively have to object to this madness because this is not justice. This is injustice. Okay, you got to remember how crazy this is. Labor, American labor unions are supposed to advocate on behalf of American labor, the working class. Illegal immigration harms American labor because it undercuts their wages, because it provides slave wages for wealthy people like the Kim Kardashians of the world, and even outside of Hollywood for the Chamber of Commerce type squishy Republicans. So you got these two things. Mass migration, especially illegal immigration, and American labor are at odds in their interests. And the head of the American labor unions are on the side of against their own members. So this reminds us of a political issue. Trump has made really strong inroads with American labor in a way that Republicans haven't seen probably since Ronald Reagan. Remember, in 2024, the Teamsters did not endorse either Kamala or Trump, which seems like that's not great for us, except the fact that the Teamsters didn't endorse the Democrat is what's shocking. That was effectively an endorsement for Trump. Sean O'Brien of the Teamsters spoke at the RNC last year. However, another reminder, there's a lot of corruption in organized labor. And so there's a lot of enthusiasm, especially among young conservatives. There's a lot of enthusiasm for reforming political coalitions, especially Trump made a new coalition. And so there's a lot of enthusiasm. Wow, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to become the party of labor. Well, good. I want to be the party of the working class, but can we really become the party of organized labor? We're going to become the party that wins votes for Muslims. I do want to win votes for Muslims, but are we going to become the party of, kefias and stuff now too? This shows you the difficulty of forming these kinds of coalitions. You think you just flick a magic switch? You say, okay, now we're the party of labor. No, that's what labor does. For goodness sakes, Bernie Sanders, for most of his political career, has been opposed to illegal immigration. He's been kind of an immigration hawk because he's an old school Marxist and he supports labor. And you got the heads of labor doing this? No. It's going to be very hard. So as we should always do as conservatives, temper your expectations. Don't get too far ahead of your skis here. Don't give up what we have, a sturdy coalition, to go chasing the next shiny bauble. I want to win over American labor. We ain't going to do it by cutting deals with these people. These people are bought and paid for by the Democrats. They would sell out their own members without blinking, and they do regularly. You gotta be a little more precise, a little more patient, a little more prudent about these things to hold the coalitions together. Okay, I have much more to say. I have much more to say. Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, just posted a video, and some people are accusing her of apologizing for the U.S. dropping the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We got U.S. embassies in Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain evacuating. Shows you how wars can spin out of control as there is a concerted effort in Washington to put us at war with Iran. There's so much more I have to say. But first, I want to tell you about Pockethose. You need to text Knowles, Knowles, to 64,000 because this episode is brought to you by Pockethose, the world's #1 expandable hose. If you, like I, have ever struggled with traditional garden hoses that kink and they crease at the spigot connection, they get all screwed up and they're annoying and then you wind up all wet, you will appreciate the innovative design of the Pockethose Copperhead with pocket pivot. This clever little swivel mechanism rotates a full 360 degrees, ensuring uninterrupted water flow and giving you complete freedom to move around your entire property without fighting against stubborn hose tangles, which drive me crazy. Whether you are watering flower beds on one side of your house or reaching planters around the back, the smooth pivot action makes watering effortless and enjoyable. When your gardening tasks are complete, this remarkable hose offers another surprise. It automatically shrinks down to a compact pocket-sized coil that is super easy to handle and store away neatly so your neighbors don't get all upset and your property doesn't look terrible. I really love this pocket hose. Built with rust-proof materials and anti-burst technology, the super lightweight yet ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is engineered to withstand years of regular use, which is why the manufacturer confidently backs it with a comprehensive 10-year warranty for your complete peace of mind. The brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with pocket pivot is a total game changer for you and your yard. For a limited time, our listeners can get a free pocket pivot with their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text Knowles to 64,000, that is Knowles, to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. Knowles to 64,000, message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. All those things I want to talk about, I'm a tease. We're going to have to push them to a little bit later because there's another huge story, which is that Bobby Kennedy just fired the whole CDC vaccine schedule advisory board. This is a huge change. This is when Maha got Bobby Kennedy into the Trump movement and then got him into the HHS secretary job, this is what they were hoping for. And a lot of people said he's not going to do it. There's no way to fight these big pharma interests. And it kind of looks like he's doing it. And we have a Bobby Kennedy insider coming on the show to tell us about it. Dad raised you to think critically, to value truth, to reject cultural insanity. This Father's Day, return the favor with a year of DailyWire Plus. Right now, 40% off new annual memberships with code DAD40. Give Dad access to Am I Racist?, Dr. Jordan Peterson's Parenting, and daily ad-free shows from the most trusted and handsome voices in conservative media. Offer ends on Father's Day. Go to dailywire.com/gift today. My favorite comment yesterday is from the Joe DeLorne, who says, I like how Michael's trying to make the point that we're allowed to say certain words again, and then the Daily Wire censors them. Oh, I noticed someone called my attention to this, though I got to defend DW here. It wasn't the Daily Wire exactly censoring it. If you watch the show on Daily Wire Plus, if you listen to the show, you don't need to worry about these words getting bleeped out. It was kind of funny, though. I said, a lot of people are talking about how we're allowed to say again, and then they bleeped out the word. They probably did it again if you're watching on YouTube. They bleeped it again. But they're not doing it for the show or for Daily Wire purposes. It's because certain social media platforms still insist upon that. And they don't enforce it uniformly. It's only certain shows that have to watch out for it. So all of this to say, we're winning. The Trump train is moving. This is all really good stuff. A lot more concerted interests that we need to subdue. Not totally destroy. We're not total libs. We need to subdue and get them to catch up with the program. Now, I'm very excited to bring on Aaron Siri. Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has just fired all 17 members of the CDC Vaccine Committee. And the liberal media are really upset about this, stories and all the papers of record. I am so pleased right now to be joined by Aaron Siri, who is a lawyer who has worked on these issues and worked with and around Secretary Kennedy for many, many years, who can help clear things up. Because me, what do I know? I don't know anything about vaccines. I'm a little skeptical of everything I'm told about vaccines by the public health experts who spent the better part of the last 5 years lying to me and gaslighting me. But I don't know. I mean, are they good? Are they bad? I don't know. What is Secretary Kennedy doing? I sat down at the White House with Secretary Kennedy and I asked him, I said, is anything going to change about vaccines on your watch? And he became more animated than he was in the rest of the interview. And he said, oh, yeah, everything's going to change. So looks like we're seeing that happening right now. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Happy to.
So who did Kennedy fire? What does it mean practically? Who's upset about it? And what can we expect?
Well, we fired, or I should say, the people who he's changing, because that's what secretaries of HHS can do. Mm-hmm. They're allowed to change folks who are in their department. So the folks that are at issue here are members of what's known as the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, ACIP. It's part of the CDC. What they do is they make recommendations to the CDC director, primarily with regards to what vaccine should be on the CDC schedule and other things related to that. They don't license vaccines. That's the FDA's job. They, after licensure, will choose, and sometimes not even when it's licensed, like we saw with Covaxin when it's only authorized, will choose to add it to the schedule. But doing that can have serious downstream consequences, in particular for the civil and individual rights of people around the country. Because when the ACIP recommends that a vaccine be given routinely, it often results in mandates. And mandates, of course, end up crushing on people's civil and individual rights.
So the ACIP is this committee, the CDC Vaccine Schedule Committee. And as you say, it's different from a vaccine approval, but in practice, I don't know that it really is. One of the first things that got me wondering if these vaccines were great and if we should be pumping our kids full of them at 3 days old or something, is the fact that when I take my kids to a medical office, I can get all kinds of services there. I can have them undergo all kinds of tests or not have certain tests or whatever. But the one mandatory thing at the vast majority of these medical offices is that you have to stick to the CDC vaccine schedule, which has many, many more vaccines on it than it did even when I was a kid. You have to stick to it, or you will not be allowed to be part of that medical group. It feels like I'm talking to the mafia or something. And to find, if you want to even just space out the vaccines, you got to go search in the hills of Palookaville to find a medical office that will take you. So how did this committee get all this power?
Well, I guess it all started in 1986. You were right, by the way. When you were younger, you didn't get as many vaccines because in 1986, there were only 3 injections that the CDC recommended in the entire first year of life, 3 by age 1. Today, the CDC schedule has 29 injections by the first end of the first year of life. And to your question, how'd that happen? Because something changed in 1986, and it's very important. Something called the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. Okay, what this law did is it gave pharmaceutical companies immunity for liability for the injuries caused by their vaccine products, which means no matter how many children their vaccine products kill, maim, injure, they never, ever can get sued for making that they didn't make their vaccine safer. You know what other product has that immunity in America? None. Literally none. Not a single other product. Not planes, not cars, not guns, not drugs, nothing. Just as the product they tell you is safe. So imagine if you have an industry that for 40 years has had no pushback, no class action lawyers. My firm has 40 people that do class action work. We sue companies all the time for, you name it, data breaches, product defect claims, but not this product, okay? So you don't get pushback because when you think about it, people that make cars, they do a great job of promoting them. How do you read about an issue about a car? There's a class action lawsuit, there's a settlement, or there's maybe regulators doing their job. But when it comes to vaccines, there's been nobody standing in the way here. Not the class action lawyers, not the product liability lawyers. They're totally neutered. And as for the regulators, they're completely conflicted. And that's 40 years of inroads by pharma. That's not a conspiracy. That's just very good business because that's what companies are supposed to do, make a lot of money. And here, your child's body is the commodity. And the more that they can get into your kid, the more money they can make. And they have, for the most part, over the last 40 years, essentially, this ACIP committee has these working groups, and the work groups are really run by pharma insiders for the most part. And then when they finally get to ACIP, it's pretty much rubber stamp. I've been to a lot of these committee hearings, and I can tell you this: our firm has we do the class actions. We also have 40 people that just do vaccine work. Okay, when we go into court, okay, I don't have an MPH or an MD or any kind of fancy title. I can't appeal to my credentials. I have to prove every single thing I say about vaccines with solid evidence, like that will stand up in court, okay? And so the lawyers at my firm, this is what we know. This is our stock and trade. When I sit at ACIP meetings, these folks is often really don't even know some of the basics around vaccinology, which is shocking to me. And a lot of their decisions are driven by dogma. We need people sitting on that committee who have, first, the best interest of children in mind, really understand the underlying science, and are going to make objective decisions about what vaccines to recommend, not recommend. And they should always, to your point, be a recommendation, not be coerced, which doctors, as you know, for a number of reasons, when you get into a medical office, they will be coercing you, often not trying to persuade you on the merits.
Okay, well then on that point, so he's going to swap out all the people who were advocating for this rigid, robust vaccine schedule and aggressive vaccine schedule. So presumably he's going to replace them with people who are going to be a little more lax and circumspect about it. But then one, what changes do you think we can see or expect to see to the vaccine schedule? And then two, on your point of coercion, could we even see a scenario where the CDC tells medical offices, hey, you don't need to rigidly enforce this vaccine schedule. These are recommendations from the CDC. So, basically lighten up on parents who want to spread it out.
Well, pediatric offices are a business. Okay, let's not forget that. And they make money. They want to make money. When you talk about taking your child in at 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, what are those visits? Those are vaccine visits. That's really what's going on. That's why the whole vaccine schedule is the same thing as the appointment schedule for your baby and your young child. There are vaccine visits. If they're not giving vaccines on the visits, how are they making money? They're not making money. Okay. So yes, ACIP can change its recommendations, but right now the financial incentive for these pediatric offices is to give you, and there's even some insurance plans and that actually penalize pediatricians who don't get to a high enough immunization rate within their practice. So if they get 100% of kids fully immunized in their practice, they will get more money per child than if they have a lesser percentage. That's not true universally, but it happens. And that obviously has a perverse incentive.
But the excuse that comes out from the medical office is, well, we're just following the CDC's recommendations. So actually, I'd like your opinion on this. If, as you say, now it's 29 vaccinations or thereabouts in the first year of life, will that number decrease, do you expect? And two, once the CDC says, hey, look, the full schedule is whatever, 20, 15, 10 vaccinations, then will the insurance companies and the pediatric offices have the ability to say, no, actually you need to get more, or no, will they have to defer to the CDC? In other words, now that we have control of the government, can we wield the government to bring these offices and the insurance companies into line?
What the private insurers might do and what the AAP might do, because remember, ACIP is one body and they're going to make recommendations for a CDC schedule. The American Academy of Pediatrics, which is really a trade association, that is what? It looks out for the interests of its members, pediatricians. It's not going to want to change its schedule. So you might end up with two schedules. You might end up with one from the CDC and one for the American Academy of Pediatrics, potentially, by the way. And who will the pediatricians follow? I don't know. But I will tell you what I do think should happen immediately. At the very least, every single vaccine that doesn't stop transmission, at the least, those vaccines, pertussis, tetanus, the polio vaccine that we used for the last 25 years, which do not stop transmission in any way, just like COVID vaccine. And that's not me saying it. I'm just a lawyer. It's all in the literature. It's in the CDC FDA website, okay? Those should immediately made joint decision-making between the doctor and the patient.
Yeah.
They're no different than heart medicine. They're no different than other things. Maybe we want people to get them. Maybe we don't. But they should never be coerced. And the way they get coerced is because they're considered quote-unquote routine. So that should immediately be changed. And that constitutes most of the mandated vaccines in America, actually, for children, the ones that I just listed. So that should happen on day one, just like Secretary Kennedy did the other day by making the COVID vaccine joint decision-making. He didn't take it off the schedule. He didn't say it's not on the CDC schedule. He just said, we're going to make it so that this product is one where you should talk to your trusted healthcare professional and make a decision together. Freedom.
Okay, so you've said that's what should happen, and I think that's going to make sense to a lot of people. Before I let you go here in just our last few seconds, do you expect that will happen, or do you not want to take out your crystal ball?
Well, look, why don't we have me back on after I see who the 17 members are and hear their initial, and then I can give you my speculation.
Fair enough. But knowing Bobby Kennedy, are you hopeful?
I am hopeful, but obviously, Secretary Kennedy, is not the ultimate authority in the federal government. And so will he get all the picks that he wants? We'll see.
Good point. Aaron Siri, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And thank you to all of you. But don't go anywhere because it is Theology Thursday. The rest of the show continues now. You do not want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, Canada, WLAS at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.